I want to apologize for not being on YouTube for the past month or so. I had a hip replacement operation, and it takes about a month in recuperation. I can't say enough about the folks over at the New England Baptist Hospital in Boston. They do an incredible job. Got me back on my feet, and I'm now out shooting again. And hopefully we'll have something for you next week on Wednesday. Hi guys, Kirk Williamson with Cape Ann Photo Tours. This week we're going to review this lens right here, the Fuji XF 16 to 80 f4 OIS WR lens. And we'll see how it performs in a variety of tests. We're going to start out with doing some tripod tests, basically fish shack. I made various exposures, and then I'm going to do some walking around images, just handheld. So here's the review coming up. See, this is a fairly small lens. It's got a 72 millimeter filter ring and nice solid clicks for the f-stop ring. Nice rubber knurled knob for the zooming ring. That's nice and smooth as well. And the manual focus ring is also nice and smooth. Works great. And it's a WR lens. Weight, size, and cost. Excellent. As you can see in this picture, this lens compares favorably in size to the 10 to 24, and they're both 72 millimeter filter threads as well. So the parameters for this test were pretty easy. I focused on this fish shack here in the back, and what I did was I shot everything, from 16 to 80, which would be 24 to 120. And I also shot it at every aperture from 4 to 16. And I made sure that I focused on the padlock in the middle of the door over there. And what I did was I auto-focused on the padlock. And then what I did was I put it on manual focus so that it was always the same. And what I did was I made sure that I refocused in between when I zoomed, because I know that it drifts. Here we are in Photoshop. What I've done is I've pulled up the images that I've shot of this fish shack here. And what I've done is I've used the 16 millimeter, the 35, and the 80 on this zoom lens. And I've chose to use f4, f8, and f11 to show the basic parameters of this lens and how well it works. And I think that's going to be, for my purposes, I use it mostly for landscape stuff and images kind of like this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you at 100% blow up the center and then the corners, and show you what it looks like. So I'm going to blow this image up to 100%. Okay, as you can see, the middle of this is pretty sharp. Actually, it's very sharp. And we go over here to the corner, and you can see that it's also pretty sharp over in here. And if we go to see this right here is also very sharp. So that's at f4. That's 16 millimeters, which is 24 in 35 millimeter terms. So we're going to go to f8 here. This is 100% blow up. You can see the same. The center is nice and sharp. And we go over here to the corner, and we can see it's also nice and sharp. And we can also see that the edges are also sharp. So let's go to f11 now at 100%, and we go to the middle, and the padlocks are nice and sharp. And let's see, we'll go over here, and we see you can see the left-hand corner is nice and sharp, and we can see that the side is nice and sharp. So that's at 16 millimeters at f4, f8, and f11. Then I'm going to go to 35, which is a 50 in terms of 35 millimeter terms. This is 100% blow up, I believe, is it? Oh, wait a minute, let me see. No, 33%. So blow this up to 100%. You can see the center is nice and sharp. Go over here to the corner, and it's also nice and sharp. But this is f4. The edges are nice and sharp. Beautiful. Performing quite well. Here we go at f8. You can see the center is nice and sharp again. And we'll go over to the corner. Also brilliantly sharp. The other corner, same thing. Nice and sharp. Okay, f8, that's great for 50. Go to f11. Center is nice and sharp again. Sound like a broken record, but this lens is really performing well. Corner, also nice and sharp. So as you can see, so far this lens is doing really, really well. That's at 16 and now at 35. Now we're going to go to the 80. This is what it looks like at, what do you call it, the full frame of it. Now we're going to blow it up to 100%. Brilliantly sharp in the middle. Let's see how it does in the corners. Ooh, starting to look a little bit softer in the corners here. Okay, so we're starting to see a little bit of degradation. It's not quite as tack sharp, but as we get closer to the center, it looks nice and sharp. But as we get to the corner at 80, it's starting to look a little bit softer. I mean, it's not something I'm going to cry over. Boy, this is I actually think it's not too bad. I mean, it is what it is. It's a zoom lens. All right, let's go to f8. Same thing. Let's go to f8. Over to the middle. Where is the middle? Oop. Okay, here are the padlocks. Oop. Padlocks, nice and sharp. And we go to the corner. And it's looking a little bit softer. And this is at f8. Yep. All right, so as you can see, at 80 millimeters, it's not quite as good as it is at f4 and f8. So here we go. Padlock's nice and sharp. This is at f11. And we're going to go back down here in the corner again. And as you can see, same thing. It's a little bit softer. So overall, I'd say the quality of this lens is really good. Most of the time, I mean, it's really sharp. The only time it starts to degrade a little bit is at 80. But at 35 and at 16, it's brilliant. I shoot a lot at f4 for just walking around stuff. And for doing my landscape stuff, I'm between 8 and 16, somewhere in that range. And so far, everything looks really, really good. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some images that I've shot just walking around town and over at Granite Pier. So that's up. And here we go to that now. What I was trying to show here was that I could shoot at 16 at f4 and the 16 millimeter at f8 as well. So both of these lenses, you can tell the image is really, really sharp in the middle and more towards the front as well. The next images that are coming up are both taken at 80 millimeters. The first one here is at f4. You can tell that the depth of field is fairly shallow, but it's very sharp. And the next one was taken at f8, and you can tell that the depth of field is not nearly as narrow, but it's also sharp as well. Boy, I really like this lens at these focal lengths. As we head into the downtown Rockport here, the Judy Rottenberg studio always has some beautiful flowers out. I think she has somebody taking care of these gardens for her, but they're really beautiful. What I wanted to do is I wanted to separate these two in the foreground here, and I shot them at f4 on purpose because I wanted to separate them. And boy, they are really, really sharp. Just beautiful. The contrast and everything was great. These have been processed in Lightroom, of course, but not so that you'd really notice a lot of a difference. You can see how sharp they are here. The next thing it is, I walked over to the waterfront and I got this buddy of mine whose name is Gussie. I got him ready for a northeaster that was coming in. You see him pushing it. It's taken at 80, and you can see how sharp that is. The next thing I did was shoot this fence here with this piece of iron on here. It's also at 80, and it's really, really sharp. The next thing I did was shoot this flower here, and I focused on the wrong area. I focused on the upper part of the flower, and the lower part of the flower is a little bit out of focus. Also done at about 5.6, I think. This next image is kind of interesting. It was taken at 70 millimeters. And what I tried to do is I wanted to show how the OIS worked. And I shot this at 25th of a second. And it's razor sharp all the way around. Well, that's it for this week's review of the Fuji 16 to 80 f4 OIS WR lens. I really got a kick out of using it. There it is. The thing I like about it the most is the size, weight, and cost. It's only about 800 US, and it really is pretty small. It's a 72-inch, what do you call it, a filter thread on the top, see? And it performed quite well in my testing. It looked to me like it was sharp at every aperture. The only place where it started to get a little soft in the corners was at 80 millimeters. And really, I don't think that's that much of a big deal. That's 120 in 35 millimeter terms. But as you can see, the throw is quite long. But, you know, compared to my Canon 24 to 70 f4, this lens is smaller and goes out about the same amount. So I really like this lens. I can't say enough about it. I'm trying not to be a Fuji fanboy here, but really they did a pretty good job with this lens. A friend of mine sent his back because he thought that it was soft in a lot of areas, but I found out just the opposite, so he might have just got a bad copy. I don't know. So anyway, if you like this review and you like the content that I'm doing, please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And sign up for notifications. And if you wouldn't mind, make a comment if you like or dislike. And make sure you hit the like button if you like, or the dislike button if you don't like. But either way, I had a good time reviewing this particular lens. And it's going to be a staple of my workflow from going forward here. So that's it for this week. And we'll see you next week, hopefully on Wednesday.